Hello, scientists. Today we're talking about where precipitation comes from. So we're going to be exploring the water cycle and finding out how it works. At the end, I'm going to give you the option to create a little diorama with me. It can be bigger depending on the size of box you have, or you'll have the option to create a picture that shows the water cycle, similar to what I have done here. So let's get started. When we talk about the water cycle, it is a cycle. That means it happens again and again that moves water from place to place. All water is continually going through a cycle. Here I have a beach scene. I have the sand, the ocean, the sun, and some clouds. The ocean is an example of what we call collection of water. When you collect something, you have a lot of it. So a collection of water is a lot of water in one place. This could be the ocean, it could be a pond, a lake, a stream. After water has been collected, or it's sitting in a glass or in a pool, it slowly over time gets evaporated. Evaporation is the process by which the sun, or the heat from the sun, actually causes the particles of water to become air instead of water. I don't know if you knew this, but the air is full of water. We're not drinking water necessarily or breathing water, but there are particles of water in the air. So when water goes from collection to evaporation, it is moving up into the atmosphere. Now we have another technical term here, which is called condensation. That's a big word. Condensation is the process by which the particles of water in the air come together with other particles like dust and other things, and they become what we see are clouds. So after water is evaporated by the sun and condensates into clouds, sometimes clouds get so heavy that they cannot carry all those water particles anymore, and the water becomes precipitation. Precipitation is a lot of different, or can be a lot of different things. So something that you're familiar with probably when we talk about precipitation is rain. Rain comes from the clouds. Precipitation is anything that falls from the clouds, these water particles that cannot be contained by the clouds anymore. A different type of precipitation is sleet. Sometimes we get this in the winter or in the in-between months, between fall and winter, when it's kind of cold, but not cold enough to snow. So sleet is kind of like a mix between ice and rain. Snow, you're familiar with, I'm sure, is basically frozen rain droplets. So snow happens when it's very, very cold and the rain freezes. And then hail is actually something interesting, and hail usually comes from thunderstorm clouds that are called cumulonimbus clouds. And hail is essentially frozen rain, or kind of like ice balls, that just keep getting pulled up into the cloud, and they keep growing and adding layers of ice and layers of ice until they become like ice balls that can sometimes be up to like the size of a quarter, and then they eventually fall from the cloud, the cumulonimbus cloud, and they all fall to the ground at once. That's called hail. So there are 4 different types of precipitation: rain, sleet, snow, and hail. This is the water cycle, boys and girls. Water is collected and then is evaporated by the sun. Then those water particles are part of the air. And once those water particles become clouds, it's condensating, or it's condensation. Eventually clouds become so full of water that they spill out onto the ground in some kind of precipitation: rain, sleet, snow, hail. And then after the water comes out of the sky, it, you guessed it, collects again, and so the cycle goes on and on. This is the water cycle. Now I am going to be showing you how to make a small diorama, we call it, of the water cycle. A diorama is kind of like a 3D picture. You'll see in my diorama I have a cloud that's raining, so it has precipitation. You'll see the word evaporation on the inside with some lines showing that the sun is evaporating the collected water. The collection's down here. So what you're going to need to make this with me, if you would like to, is some kind of box. I had this little jewelry box that's very small. So I have a very small diorama, but if you have a cereal box that you're done with that you can cut up and open up so that you can see inside of it, cardboard box, shoe box, anything like that, you can do this on a larger scale. You can do this with markers. I'm going to be doing it with a lot of construction paper. Well, I guess 3 different types of paper. Because I didn't really feel like coloring it. So it's up to you whether you use paper or markers to decorate your diorama. So let's get to it. If you do not have the materials or the drive to make this diorama, you could instead create me a picture similar to this one that shows the different parts of the water cycle. The key thing is that you need to include these words on your drawing: collection, evaporation, condensation, when they become clouds, precipitation. Okay? So you can either stop now and create your drawing using these vocabulary words. I'll include them in the directions. Or you can stick with me and see how to make a diorama. For my diorama, what I did to start with is you could color the background all blue, or you could get a blue piece of paper and a pencil or pen, and I traced my box so that I figured out the general size of it. And then I used scissors and I cut out the background. Before I went any further, I used actually an old yellow sticky note that I don't need anymore. And I drew a circle for the sun. And then honestly, in the middle of it, and if you're doing this on a bigger scale, you'll be able to fit the word in here, but on the sun, I wrote the word evaporation because the sun is what causes evaporation. The heat from it causes those water particles to change, become part of the atmosphere, like gas. Then I'm going to glue my little yellow sun onto my blue backdrop. And I might use a marker and add the sun's rays. Maybe some little squiggle lines to show evaporation. After I've done this, you can probably, I did it with my other one, skip the glue, but it will stick better to your box if you put some glue on the back and then shove it in. If you traced your box like I did, it should be a perfect fit. Some of the corners will kind of bend, but it's good because it keeps it inside. So now the evaporation part's done. The next part is I need to fill up these sides with color. If you're coloring with marker, you could just write your labels on and then color around it. I am going to be gluing paper to my box. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So I'm going to take one side since they're all the same. If you have a box that's a rectangular shape, you'll need to do the long side and the short side. You'll need to trace 2 of each. If your box is a square like mine is, squares have all sides the same length, so I only need to trace one side, and I'll do it 4 times. If you hear that noise in the background, it's my weird dog. She likes to pinch this blanket. She's something else. Lucy, stop. Okay. After you've cut out your different pieces of paper, you are ready to move on. Now, The first one I'm going to do is the one that will be the ocean or the water, whatever it is. Pond, could be a pool. I'm going to make it the ocean because you know Miss Joyce loves the ocean. I'm going to do some wavy ocean lines. And then towards the bottom, I'm going to write the word collection because the word collection refers to any body of water. When I say body of water, I don't mean physical body like our bodies, but I mean a lot of water in one place. So you can glue the back of it. You don't have to. I think if you just smush it in there, if you traced your box, it will fit just right. But I'm gonna add a little bit of glue and then press this piece down. So you see I have my water and my sun. Now I need to do the other sides. On the pieces that go on the side, I think I'm actually going to make one that just has some evaporation lines. And then I'll glue that in there. You know what I just realized? I didn't tell you. I found that my diorama has like a little piece that sticks off, so I'm trimming them just a little bit so that they fit in. You don't have to, it's personal preference. So on one side, I'm putting in my evaporation lines, just using my finger to smush it so it fits. On the other side, let's see, I'm going to write the word condensation. Since it goes upright like this, I'm going to write it down. C-O-N-D-E-N. Ooh, I don't know if I'm going to fit it. It's a big word. S-A-T-I-O-N. Just fit. Condensation. And what I might do here is draw a little cloud, because clouds forming is caused by condensation. Remember, if you don't have a different color of paper, you can always just draw your clouds on. I'm being a little bit finicky because I'm kind of into this project. If you are working with me right now, just remember that if you're not working as fast as me, you can pause this video and press play when you're ready to move on, or press play when you have the materials you need. Skip around, do what you need to do. I'm putting a little bit of glue on my cloud, and then I'll put my cloud right here. Kind of covered my D a little bit, that's okay. Now I'm going to put a little glue on the back. And my other side piece is done. Oh, I didn't trim it. Okay, it's coming together. Now the top, I am not going to write anything on. You could draw yourself or cut some tiny little clouds to put up here. For the sake of time, I'm not going to. I'm going to glue my sky in the ceiling of my diorama. Now the last part is to create what's missing. We have collection, evaporation, condensation. We need precipitation. So for precipitation, you'll see on my one I already made, I have made a little cloud that's raining. You can choose to do your diorama with hail, with snow, it's up to you. But the first thing you're going to do is make a cloud. Dioramas usually have a 3D part to them. So that's what this is going to be for me. Sorry, I needed a drink of water. I'm doing a lot of talking. Okay, I'm going to cut out this cloud, and then on it I'm going to write the word precipitation, because all precipitation comes from clouds. Do you remember what kind of cloud I told you produces hail? If you said cumulonimbus, you're right, although maybe you didn't remember. It's a big word to remember, and I've thrown a lot of big words at you today. On my cloud, I'm going to write precipitation. Now, to make my cloud 3D, you could use string. I'm using a tiny little strip of paper. On the paper, I'm going to, towards the bottom, make a couple of raindrops. And then I'm going to take my cloud, put a little glue on the back, and press it onto my strip so it looks like it's raining. And then if you take the top and you bend it back so that it has a flat part now, I'm going to put glue on that surface and then stick it to the ceiling of my box. I'm going to press it to the top of the box over to the side, if it will agree with me here, so that I can still see my sun. I think I put glue on the wrong side. Whoops. I've got glue all over my fingers. I might advise, honestly, making a bigger version of this because doing it in the tiny box is kind of tricky. All right, generally, it's pretty much done. So I have made my 3D model. If you are going to make it, remember you need a box, markers or construction paper, glue, and something to write with. After you use it, you can explain the water cycle to someone else. Nice job!